I know from from being a huge fan of Andrew Gurza, how stigmatized people who are disabled are. In that they just are not in any way seen as a sexual being, and how it's taboo to think of a disabled person, having sex, having a sexual relationship, masturbating, like all that types of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, it's people don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
And don't think about it.
And there are so many different ways to become disabled. There are so many different parts of life where you can become disabled. There's so many different disabilities. Yeah. And we tend to have very narrow assumptions about it, which are not universally applicable. And even when they are somewhat applicable, we assume that that's a bad thing. Like, there's this idea of like, okay, well, caregiving isn't sexy, so we can talk about how relationships don't have to be caregiving in nature, and that makes it okay. But no, I certainly less so now, but certainly at the beginning of my relationship, I was in a non-power wheelchair. I needed my partner to push my wheelchair because I only had one arm, and that just made me go around in circles. Like, he needed to wash my hair.
Yeah.
I couldn't do dishes. I couldn't do laundry. There were lots of things that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
He was straight up caregiving for me.
Yeah.
We were still in love.
Yeah.
We still had a sex life.
Yeah.
And it all worked out okay because we're still together, and it's okay that our relationship has had caregiving dynamics because there are concepts like interdependence where we don't need to be independent and we don't need to be dependent. We give each other things we take, and that happens throughout the course of a relationship and a lifetime.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to,
It's not just one way.
It's not just one.
Even when it is just one way, that's okay too.
Yeah. But it's not just black and white. And
yeah. So why can't we have nuance in this aspect of sexuality when we have it in so many others?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, literally, you could not apply one thing to one person and another person. Like, you're saying, the spectrum of disability is just so wide that it's impossible to have a blanket statement for everyone.
It's true.
Yeah.
And people are mostly not giving it the credence it needs in sexuality. It was Kirsten Schultz. Kirsten Schultz just yesterday or the day before posted something about how they're working with the supposed writer of this be all and end all health and sexuality book, and at a certain point, after much explanation, was like, oh, yeah, I guess maybe we should include disability.
You think?
I don't know. It's weird. It's these weird roadblocks that you come up against all the time in every single discipline. And even people who believe that sex and disability, that's important, people who are teachers or occupational therapists or who work in the rehab situation or the rehab milieu in any way, then they come up against policies that keep them in line or bosses that keep them away from doing that. And they eventually move away from seeing that. So there are very few strong voices that are coming out about it. But it's cool.
I feel like when it is talked about, a lot of times it's talked about as if it's novelty. As if it's novel.
This isn't a thing that's been happening since there was sex and there was disability.
Yeah, it's oh, disabled people are having sex.
Yeah.
And we should be supporting them, and it's what?
Yeah, okay, there's sort of every 9 months there's articles that come out, and then there are a couple that come out around that.
Yeah, what's helpful for people who aren't specifically aren't in those situations, what's important for people is to have for me anyways, how I feel just representation in media and whatnot of disabled people in romantic settings and sexy settings.
Yeah. And can
do
you think of a lot of those?
No, I mean, no. Do you feel like that's an important thing?
Yeah, I think representation is tremendously important. I also feel like it happens almost never, and when it does happen, in a media setting, it's able-bodied actors, which is a whole other discussion.
Yeah, the Glee kid.
Yeah, exactly.
That's in the wheelchair.
So there are very few representations, if at all, and when they are
or that terrible movie that came out. of the guy
me
that
with
was
you, me before you, me against you. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but yeah, I did read a lot of think pieces about it. It was also a book before. And,
great.
And it's like a lot of when there is representation, it's inspiration porn. So it's this idea of like
fetishization.
Oh, well, you're such a good person because you're with this person, or like, oh, isn't that uplifting? And the truth is, sometimes I am like a dick to my partner. Sometimes our relationship and our sex life and all of that is just kind of like meh, whatever. It's not inspirational. It also doesn't need to be the best of the best and the most fascinating to be valuable. Because I would say if you look at just the general sex lives of able-bodied people and the general relationships,
there's not a lot.
They're fine. It's not super inspirational, and it's the same for me. Plus a cane.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of stereotypes happen. I'm sure you have a lot of opinions on disability and dating. Mm-hmm. Just something that comes to mind. I was talking to Stella Palakrova like a while back about, I believe she wrote like a master's thesis on disabled women dating able-bodied men, and the inverse of disabled men dating able-bodied
I know what you're saying.
Females.
Yes.
And that how it was kind of much more accepted for an able-bodied woman because she is kind of seen as a caregiver traditionally. And
there's definitely some of that.
Do you find there are stereotypes that you come across as far as like talking about the intersections of disability?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of, for me, I can see that trope being true, although it would, I don't know, there's ableism with everybody, and also there are a lot of people whose genders don't necessarily conform to that, and who also maybe in like same-sex or different than male-female sex relationships.
Non-heteronormative.
Exactly. Yeah. The ones for me are, and I come across this with matchmaking, because I will ask about disability, and often I'll ask about it in the context of like somebody really wanting somebody who will go out and do active things with them.
Right.
And that tends to be their reasoning behind not wanting to date
someone in a chair, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. And
is because they like the outdoors.
Yes. Yeah. But I also think that is often a convenient, it's not that it's not necessarily also true, but it's a really convenient way of getting out of that discussion, because I almost like, and I will be perfectly honest about this as a disabled matchmaker, it's easier to bring up race than it is to bring up disability.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about disability, people don't, like, there are not a lot of think pieces about this. There are not a lot of representations of able-bodied and disabled relationships.
Yeah.
They don't have any framework for that, and they have nothing but terrible representations of disabled people and disabilities.
Yeah,
so
like these crazy movies and whatnot. Yeah.
It's harder to have these conversations in like the 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So, and I also think the same way when I talk to people about dating a fat person, they like look across the table at me and think, oh, okay, I need to be mindful of what I say. I think being a disabled person, people have that similar response of like, they know I have a cane, they can see it, they, like they maybe don't know how it happened or what's going on. But
do you think that influences their response?
Maybe slightly. I'm almost like, I'm impressed when people are able to to kind of like stick to their guns, and then we get to have that conversation.
Then you get to call them out, or softly call them in.
Yeah, because that gives an opportunity for a discussion. Whereas if they're like, oh yeah, I'm sure that would probably be fine, like I guess it's like case by case basis. Like, some people really mean that, and some people mean, I really don't want to have this talk. And if you match me with somebody disabled, well, I guess I'll deal with it then.
Yeah, I guess I'll freak out then.
Yeah, and it's hard to have these conversations, and it's difficult, like as a disabled person and as a fat person, whatever, but it's also just in general, these aren't fun conversations to have.
Right.
But they are useful not only for matchmaking purposes, because the more open-minded they are, I can match them with people with a wider selection of people, and B, I can match them with people who value open-mindedness.
Yes.
Because if they're closed-minded and I'm like, I probably shouldn't match you with this person then, who is exactly your type, and there's no differences that you would have a difficulty with, but they would have a difficulty with you.
With you being ableist.
Yeah. And so there's that, and then...
And body negative.
Yeah, so that definitely
mindset
comes up a lot for me. But yeah, I think it is valuable to have these discussions, even if they are difficult
uncomfortable
because they
for people.
give people, aside from the matchmaking stuff, maybe a more open outlook on life. And even if it's just planting the seed and starting, I also do I didn't even talk about this. I do coaching around sexuality, but also around dating and relationships. And sometimes that'll include stuff with matchmaking clients. That's a service we offer.
Yeah.
And these may be discussions that we have. It's not the only kind of discussion we have, but if people are saying, you know, the seed has been planted and they maybe want to talk more about it, that's an opportunity for that.
Hey, the more we talk about things like that, the better, because normalization, like, you know, let's just let's just try to get everybody to a place of not feeling so scared about talking
People
about.
are so scared.
Yes.
About everything. And I mean, this is like a show like this is great because talking about sex is really important.
Yeah, sex is another thing that people just have a lot of difficulty with.
And it's so much easier if you talk about it, but you have to get over the hump.
Yeah, you just gotta make yourself do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that said, we are just about at time.
I realize we talked a lot.
We got a good amount covered, I feel like,
I think so.
for you know, what was put in front of us. We got through some of it.
It's a lot.
So Claire, can you tell us all about, okay, you said your matchmaking, your coaching, radio you briefly mentioned, your new podcast.
Yes.
All this stuff. Give us all the links and whatnot so people can.
ClaireAH.com. That's my website where you'll find all
the
of
things
it,
together. Great.
Including if you go to my contact page, my social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. It's Claire AH. H. There are 5 H's because Claire AH was taken everywhere else. Rude. The matchmaking company I'm with is Friend of a Friend Matchmaking, which is friendofafriendmatchmaking.com. My new podcast, which is about intersectional dating. So dating and disability is one of them. Andrew Gurza was actually one of my first guests. That is at adatewithpodcast.com, and you can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean.
All those things. A Date
all
With.
Of them. A Date With. Because it's like a date with Andrew Gurza.
Yeah.
One of my first episodes was a date with my husband, which was also really fun.
Oh, God, I got to go back and listen to that.
It was very cute.
Yes.
Then Sex City Radio at sexcityradio.com. That's on live every Tuesday from 11 p.m. to midnight on CIUT. What else do I do? Yeah, you can find out about my coaching on my coaching page on my website.
Tell me something good.
tmsgstories.com. It's about every month at the Glad Day Bookshop in Toronto. About every month. Do I do other things? I'm sure I do.
I'm sure you do as well.
Basically, sex, dating, disability. Oh, I'm on O School. I am a sex educator on O School. So I talk about, I have like a weekly Thursday 8 p.m. EST slot where I talk about dating. There's an Ask a Matchmaker thing that's recurring. I also talk about sex and disability. I talk about intentional monogamy. I talk about what to do after infidelity. I talk about fantasy fulfillment. So a bunch of things.
Love those topics. Yeah. Yes. I'll have to have you back to talk about them.
Please. I forget what I do half of the time. There's a lot.
I was just telling you my outro is different every time because I just don't remember it all.
I'm Erin Pym. I do some stuff.
Okay, yeah. What are the things I have to tell you guys about? So if you want to see the Bedpost stage show, come out to the Super Wonder Gallery the last Tuesday of every month at 9, or you can come out to our Social Capital show at the Social Capital Theater at 8 p.m. the third Friday of every month. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, if you could please give a rating and review, that would be so great. If you're on YouTube and watching this for the first time, you can subscribe for the channel. Yeah. Also, hi. Hello. Subscribe. All those types of things just to go great lengths to me and my business, helping me expand and getting more people exposed to all my stuff. I want to thank the Sonar Podcasting Network. We've got a lot of other great podcasts on our network that you should go check out for sure. All our YouTube content, we want to give a huge thanks to Eggplant Media and everyone at the Pacific Junction Hotel. My sponsors, comeasyouare.com and Lovecrafters. Go check out their Etsy shop. Other than that, I want to give a huge thanks to you, Claire. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we finally got to connect. This was so lovely. Yeah. And very lastly, if you are listening to the podcast, there is original music by Stephanie Copeland, good friend of mine. Go check out all her music stuff. And you can do that at stephcopelandmusic.com. Bye, everybody.
Bye.